All right, JR, take it away.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is J.R. Smith. I'm the Director of Athletics at Chadron State College, and I'm also the President of the Division II Athletic Directors Association. And on their behalf and on NATYCAA's behalf, I want to welcome all of you for being here. I think this is an exciting presentation that we have that'll go, piggyback off the last one that we did with Rod. And just a couple of ground rules here before we get started, but we will do some Q&A at the end of this. We made some time available for that since we kind of ran long last time. So you will have a chance to do that. If you want to, you can just use the Q&A buttons. And we have a few already that people have already sent in to us. And then I just encourage you to be a part of what we're trying to do here with Rod's presentation. So without any further ado, Rod Olson is the founder of and CEO of Coaches of Excellence Institute and the Coach O Consulting Group. He's an author and an expert on 21st century leadership and coaching. Following 20-year college coaching career that included coaching stints at three-time national champion Appalachia State, to being the head coach at 3 small colleges, Rod has been helping high-stakes leaders be their best in today's ever-changing world. He's known as the coach's coach. Rod runs the executive leadership development for the Dallas Stars and Texas Rangers, and currently coaches and mentors the United States Navy SEALs Majors Commanders. Please join us and welcome Coach O.
Hey, JR, thank you very much. So glad all of you are on here. And just a couple of reminders before we get going here. Number one, if you want to go split screen, that's probably the best way to go, as I'm going to be using some slides to help us walk through this. And the other thing is, I want to remind everybody that I'm so excited for this call and for this training, because I'm a small college guy, and all my kids are Division II scholarship athletes, or were. I've got one left that's at Limestone College now, playing lacrosse there and getting his MBA. And so I'm just very excited, though, because I worked my way up. I started out at small college, NAIA. I was a junior college player myself up in Minnesota, and then was an NAIA player and an NAIA coach. I've also been a Division III head coach. I've coached at Division II when a lot of the schools that are Division I now were Division II when I was there. Like, I coached at South Dakota State University back when it was D2. So and then of course 1AA when we called it that. But you know what? I'm just excited because I know at this level, you guys and gals are doing so much more than just being athletic directors and associate ADs. And many of you have been coaches. So I appreciate that perspective also. And I myself was an associate AD at the D3 level at one point in my career. So this is very near and dear to my heart, and I hope that it helps a ton. Now, remember a couple of things. When I teach and when I facilitate, again, I'm going to give you a lot of information. We're going to have a much greater amount of time for Q&A at the end, so I would encourage you to submit your questions. And really, I come from a world where I literally was just in Miami working with the Special Operations Command leaders for the Southern Hemisphere for our country. And I taught there for 3 days and did a lot of one-on-ones and a lot of just small group activities too that I did with them. But it was so nice to travel, number one. But number two, I give a lot of information, and I deal with people that are dealing with very high stakes and high speed environments, much like yourself. So when I teach, you're going to get a lot of information, but remember, it's like going to the buffet. You don't need to eat everything at the buffet. Just find 1 or 2 or 3 nuggets that can help you both professionally and personally. Remember, if we're not good at home, eventually we're going to be jacked up at work. And if we're jacked up at work, eventually it's going to mess us up at home. I am the guy that provides tools and help. So this last seminar that we're doing in a series of 3 here is called The 5 Habits or Traits of Elite Athletic Directors in Uncertain Times. And clearly we're in uncertain times, but I don't know about you. I'm sick and tired of saying I'm sick and tired of everything. So we're going to approach this as, hey, we know it's uncertain times. Things are getting better. They are improving, but we still have to finish strong. But more importantly, we've got 2021 coming up, and you guys and gals have a lot of people that are counting on you. So without any further ado, let's jump into this, and let's start with the first slide. And oh, by the way, there's my email. You can hit me on Twitter if you'd like, and message me there. And then there's my cell phone. I dare you to call me. That's what I always tell people. But I'm available to you because you're a high priority for me. So here, let's get moving. Very first thing is our 3 Ps. And remember, if you're new to this call, I was taught a long time ago by some very talented and I believe very good leaders. Never going to a meeting, never going to a talk, never going to a planning session without your 3 Ps, and that's the purpose, the process, and the payoff. And today, our purpose is, again, talking about leading well in uncertain times, but to encourage you and challenge you to be the best leader and person you can possibly be in uncertain times. It's one thing to do it when things are going easy, but it's another thing to do it when things are just always changing, ever changing. So our process for today is going to be very simple. Number one, I'm going to remind you of what uncertainty causes with leaders. Something I taught in our last session, but I just want to review it quickly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but of what uncertainty and chaos can rob a leader of or cause certain things in a leader. The second thing we're going to do is I'm going to give you what I call my 5 habits or traits of elite ADs in uncertain times. And hopefully these will be great tools for you that you can implement in your life immediately. And they can give you also some encouragement as you move forward. And then the last thing we're going to do is do open Q&A where you guys can ask me anything that you want and gals can ask me anything that you want. And I'll do my best to help you. And then the last thing I want to offer up, because I seem to forget to do this all the time, but my organization, Coaches of Excellence Institute, is a nonprofit and everything else, but we are available. My primary target area and audience is the athletic director, because I believe you are the straw that stirs the drink. And if you're not getting any help, who is going to help? So I'd love to offer up strategic help for you. Much like I talked about what I do at the Special Operations Command. Can we come in and do a workshop? Do you want coaching for your coaches? What does all that look like? But again, I don't want to get away from the main thing here, but I always forget to offer that up. And you can find that out at Coaches of Excellence too, if you want.com. Here's the payoff. We hope that you leave this webinar encouraged, equipped, and empowered to be the best version of yourself as you lead yourself and others through the chaos and uncertainty. And quite frankly, we just hope you're a better leader than when you entered this room. So with that said, let's move into these 3 truths about how uncertainty affects us and leaders in the world today. And then we'll jump into our 5 habits that are so crucial today. So remember what uncertainty and how it affects us. Number 1, uncertainty is an expert at pulling us from the main things, such as our people, our values, and our communication. And I just want to remind you, again, take some screenshots, do whatever you want to do here with this in regard to, just for your own information. But uncertainty is an expert at pulling us away from, what about your core values? What about your people? Well, I got to get this done. I got to get that done. I was just on a call this morning with a college basketball coach, and he's like, well, I had to reschedule this game, and now we're doing this, and I've got 2 players out. I had 9 that had the virus, but now we're back in play. We're playing Saturday, then we're playing Monday. Rod, what did you do with the team last night? How did you teach them about being agile and everything else? We got to make sure that we don't let uncertainty rob us of these main things. The other thing uncertainty does is it causes us to abandon our courage sometimes when we need it most. And we go back to, are you operating in a fear-based mindset or a faith-based mindset? And when we talk about faith-based, we talk about, hey, we believe that this too shall pass. It is a season, albeit a long season. It's been 7 or 8 months, and it'll probably go for a little bit more. But hey, do we believe that we're going to come out of this? Do we believe that things are going to go back and be in play? Are students going to come back on campuses and all these types of things? And obviously, we have faith and believe that that's going to happen, especially when we see things like the vaccines and whatever coming through. But the reality is, uncertainty will cause us to always operate in a fear mindset, which then, I'm just not going to talk to my people. I don't want to say something that's wrong. I don't want to give them hope when there is no hope. I don't want to, hey, all that crap. And I call it crap, is just what it is. Uncertainty and chaos robs us sometimes of just being the courageous leaders we need to be. And I want to tell you one more thing here before we move forward. Your people are looking for a North Star. Your people are looking for someone who will grab the wheel and steer this car. And if you're not that person right now and you keep avoiding, or worse yet, you just kind of just keep your hands off the wheel and we're just going to let this thing go where it goes, can't have it. Maybe one of the worst things we can possibly do. Sometimes the best thing to do is grab the wheel and not drive and just sit in the car for a little while. But people know that there is a driver and and remember now, you're the North Star. You have to model the behavior you want to instill in other people. I'm going to say that again. You have to model the behavior you want to instill in your people. Okay? Third thing that uncertainty does is it raises our emotional temperature and speeds up our decision-making processes. So remember, you need to have systems to make decisions. Don't be just willy-nilly shooting from the hip here. You just can't do that in uncertainty. And I had someone the other day tell me, God, I'm just so tired of planning, Rod. I'm just so tired of making plans, and then those plans don't work, so we got to make more plans, and then we readjust those plans. And you know what I told him? I really empathize with you. Get over it. That's just the world that we live in right now. And I don't want to be insensitive or really lower the importance of how hard this time is. But you know what? You're the leader. You're in charge. You got to grab the wheel, hold on, and steer this bad boy. And it's important that you understand we don't make excuses. And I got to stay with my processes. I got to stay systematic in my decision making. And here's how we're going to do things. I'm going to be consistent, because remember, consistency breeds trust, and trust breeds relationships and loyalty over time. If you're consistent, your people will be in a faith mindset. They will trust you, and they'll hang with you. But if you're not consistent, even if you just as good as you can be consistent with the things that are under your control. You know what I love the best is I work with a couple ADs that they've been really consistent about dealing with the inconsistencies of all the people above them. And I'm going to say that another way. Sometimes your decisions are being made by people that are on committees for your counties. They're on the health committees, or they're on the CDC or whatever else, or your president make decisions, and you don't even, the ability to handle those with grace and maturity and consistency is what really gets your people to believe in you and to keep the trust and to keep your culture where you need it. Remember, high clarity equals high performance and high execution. Right now, biggest thing we can do is slow this thing down and don't make hasty decisions. But I'm going to tell you this too. People can't stand it when people don't make decisions either. Our leaders need to make decisions. So let's keep moving forward now into our 5 habits and traits of elite athletic directors in uncertain times. Now, the first one, I'm going to give you 5 of these, all right? And I'm going to give you a little coaching tool with each one. The first one is we need to be realistic optimists and hope producers. In uncertain times, great leaders are optimistic, but they're also realists. Now, some of you might be sitting there going, good, I'm a realist. I'm all about the facts. Well, that's true, but you also need to be an optimist. You need to be someone that can produce hope in people. Great leaders are hope producers. If you don't want to be a hope producer, you need to quit and go get another job. Because right now, your coaches, your people, your staff, the student athletes, they need you to be a realistic optimist. They need someone that can produce hope for them. And you know, it's interesting. You know, how do you do that though, Rod? How do you be a realistic optimist? And if you remember the last time we spoke, I talked about those 3 decisions that we're making every minute that impact everyone so much. You know, and the first decision is we decide what we focus on. Are we going to focus on uncontrollables or controllables? The second thing is we decide what story or what meaning we give to the things that are happening to us. Now, if I could stop right here and tell you, this is probably the greatest tool of everything that I've taught you. You want to have a great attitude. You want to model the behavior that you want to instill in other people. You want other people to be better. Then you need to make sure that you're telling yourself the real story when things happen to you. You know, remember, as humans, we have a tendency to make the story worse than it is or better than it is. Hey, we just need to stick with the facts and tell ourselves the story and really make sure it's a story that's based on facts, not feelings. That's really, really important. By the way, some of you may be sitting there, and I've even done this at a time or two. Oh, is this thing ever going to, oh, what's going to happen? Is the government ever going to figure this thing out? We're in the same spot we were 7 months ago. Okay, that may be true, but we're not. There's some truth to it, but the reality is no, we're not. We're in a different stage now. We have newer things. We have figured out how to treat it better. We have figured out how to quarantine better. We've figured out the whole timelines now. They've even changed the timelines for contact traces. So everything is changing, and we just need to make sure we have to decide to tell ourselves the real story. And then, of course, the last thing we decide is what we decide to do. Now, you see those letters on the screen, RNME? A good friend of mine has taught me this, and his name is Randy Chambers. And Randy works with me and helps me with athletic departments and coaching staffs and everything else. And he has a good friend named Bernie Floriani. And Bernie actually played at the University of Virginia, was a basketball player, but and then he became a State Farm agent and was super successful, uber successful. And then Bernie got ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And Randy became good friends with Bernie. And one day he asked Bernie towards the end, by the way, Bernie passed away just a couple of years ago. But before that, Randy talked to him and said, hey Bernie, what is something you've learned or that ALS has taught you after you've been in that wheelchair for a decade or more? You know, what has this whole experience taught you? Has it taught you anything? He said, absolutely, Randy, it has. And what it's taught me is these 4 letters, RNME. Right now means everything. You know, I've got a good friend. He says, if you have 1 foot in yesterday and 1 foot worrying about tomorrow, you're not doing a very good job with today. And you know what? We've got to make sure, just like Bernie learned, right now means everything, both at work and at home. You know, I was fortunate to be able to celebrate Thanksgiving with my family, all of them. And I've got 2 little grandsons now, Boone and Bruin. They're not even 2 years old yet. And you know what? I kept saying this mantra over and over and over to myself. Hey, right now means everything. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't turn on the news. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't wonder what's going to happen. Just enjoy every minute right now. And you know what? That's the key to being a hope producer. Hey, we're going to look at long-term plans. We're going to look at long-term goals. All of you are talented. You're smart. You know what you're doing. But the reality is, can you live in the moment? Can you be where your feet are? Can you realize that right now means everything? And it means everything to your coaches. And it means everything to your student athletes. Let's go to number 2. They build trust with candor and consistency. Elite athletic directors in uncertain times, they make sure they communicate candidly and often and authentically through fact-based and consistent communication. Now, you know, I mentioned to you, I was just with the Special Operations Command, and what that is that's the leaders of all the special forces that are military, Green Berets, Delta, SEALs, MARSOC, Marines, all of them. And these are the leaders. And one of the things they take pride in is, hey, we've got to make sure we communicate consistently and concisely, but also with candor and with care. You know, and I didn't put that word care in there, but you always have to ask yourself, you know, remember the old acrostic or acronym, think before you speak. Hey, is what I'm going to say true? That's the first letter in think. Hey, if it's not true, then don't say it. It's gossip or it's conjecture. Don't do it. The next letter is H. Hey, is what I'm going to say helpful to my staff? Or is it going to put us in a dungeon, you know? Hey, the last thing is the I stands for inspiring. Is what I'm going to say inspire them? You know, and the other thing about helpful is, am I throwing gasoline on the fire, or is this actually helping the situation? Can I say it in a way that's going to inspire them, or is this just going to pull them down even further? The N stands for necessary. Is what I'm going to really say necessary, or am I just wasting oxygen? And then the last one is kind of why I told you this about this acronym or this acrostic is, can I say it in a kind way? You know, and you might be sitting there going, Rod, this is touchy-feely. This is soft skills. This is, yeah, it is. But you know what it is? Remember, we talked before, people are in a lot of pain. They got a lot of pain points. We got to have empathy and everything else. Right now, it's super important. Even if you have to let people go, you have to do it in a kind way. And remember, how you treat people in uncertain times and how you treat people in the chaos and during a pandemic is how they're going to remember you for the rest of their lives. And that's what your reputation is going to be in the industry. Now, I put on here coffee, and then I put some dots. That means Coffee with Coach O. I do a weekly newsletter that's free and that I send out, and there's just thousands of people that get it. And it's a great way for me to communicate with candor and authenticity and hopefully consistency. I would challenge you. Do you have a little maybe email you send out every Monday morning that maybe is coffee with whoever you are? You know, coffee with the AD, and then you give them just a few bullet points of where we are, where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. I mean, it is that simple. You could develop a little tool like that, and that you can communicate with candor and consistency. And remember, you can't go dark. Don't stop communicating with your people just because we're in the middle of a pandemic. You know what? One of the greatest things you can do right now is obviously send out freaking Christmas cards, send out well wishes for the holidays and time with their families again, and hope they really enjoy it and that you can't wait to get back in the office whenever that is, or if you're already in there to really start working on things. But remember, you got to build trust with candor and consistency in uncertain times. Very, very important. Here's another one. in chaotic times, great leaders, mature leaders are focusing on developing agile and resilient leaders. We're active, empathetic listeners. Now, what does that mean? Well, you know what it is. All of us have been to the active listening courses. You should restate to people what they said to you and not be distracted, blah, 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 blah. So here's a little tool that I use that I encourage you to use. Number one, if you're an empathetic listener and an active listener, you always go into the conversation, and in the middle of a conversation, remind yourself with a small little voice in your head, say, what's it like to be in their shoes? What's it like to be working for me or with me? Hey, what's it like to be my child right now? What's it like to be my spouse right now? And I love doing that right during the conversation because it forces me to lock in and be where my feet are. Now, get your phone, turn it over, turn it off vibrate, turn off the sound, and just turn it over. All right, knock it off. Quit watching TV, quit looking at your computer when you're talking to people. All those things that we've been taught not to do, stop doing them. They're the great. Listen, not listening to people is probably the greatest form of passive disrespect you can do. Now, here's another little tool I do. Never interrupt anyone. And this is going to be hard, especially if you're brilliant like I am. Whatever. Got to make sure that you let people finish all the way to the end. One of the things I love to do is I tell myself, if I ever hear someone say, hey, let me finish, Rod, or they give me this sign, like my wife will say, hey, Rod, just let me finish. If I'm getting that, those are yellow and red flags to tell me to shut up. So it's very important. Remember, see yourself as a gardener, not a repair person. You're not in there to fix people and solve problems all the time. Sometimes part of solving the problem is just letting them talk it out. Remember, great leadership is parenting at the end of the day. Sometimes we've got to be able, and we tell coaches this too. Can you walk by a bad pitch? Can you walk by a bad swing or a poor tackle or a poor set? Can you walk by? And what that means is, do we have kind of a grandparent mentality where we know that is a time when they just need to work through it? They just need to talk and play and just figure it out for themselves. Sometimes we need to let people finish and just let them talk it out. Man, I'm telling you, for me, one of the hardest things on the planet. It's kryptonite to me. But again, got to make sure we make people feel heard. By the way, we've got to do this by not only having group sessions, but you got to make sure you do some resiliency training, not only in groups, but in one-on-one. And I tell you, here's a great tool and a great story that I encourage you to use. And you can give my son Colt credit for this, a guy who's finishing his PhD and is a mental conditioning coach with the Colorado Rockies. Colt does a nice job. I brought him in to teach with me one time with some coaches and players at a college. And it's great bringing him in because he's 28 years old and he's still relevant to those players. And one of the things Colt taught him, he said, you got to be mentally tough. We got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. But how do you be resilient? Well, you got to choose the right mindset. And here's a great story you can tell your people. And here's what I want to encourage you to do. We need to be cockroaches, not pandas. Now, where do pandas live? Well, somebody will say, well, they live in Japan. No, not only do they live in Japan, they live in a specific forest in Japan. It's the only forest they can live in. Then we ask them, hey, what do pandas eat? And they go, well, I don't know, bamboo or what? Yeah, they eat only bamboo and only a specific type of bamboo that's only found in that forest. And if they can't live in that jungle right there with that type of bamboo, they will not survive. Now, then we ask the group, hey, where's a cockroach live? And they go, everywhere. And we go, that's exactly right. What's a cockroach eat? And they go, I don't know, everything, right? And they're like, and there's some gross things they do eat, but a cockroach can survive in any environment, anywhere. And we've even seen it where you chock a cockroach in half and they still keep moving. I mean, we need to be, in uncertain times, developing people to have a cockroach mentality, not a panda mentality. It's a great little tool you guys can use. Just give my son Colt credit. Here's number 4. They stop and celebrate small wins weekly. In times of uncertainty, elite, mature ADs create momentum by celebrating small successes daily, weekly, monthly, the whole deal. Hey, do you pause and just celebrate the small wins? I've got a good friend that trained me, John Maxwell, that told me, hey, you got to walk slowly through the crowds, man. Great leaders pause and walk slowly through the crowds. Sometimes in uncertain times, we get moving so fast and we're trying to keep putting out fires and reinvent things and reposition things and reschedule things that we forget to slow down and just pause and celebrate some small wins. Hey, the only way you get through uncertain times is to celebrate the small wins. And, you know, and hey, I'm talking about little things like, hey, we didn't have one reschedule this week. I'd have a party. You know, I would absolutely have a party in the conference room of the athletic department and bring in cake, you know, and just celebrate, man. I mean, why not? You know, when I was coaching, we used to celebrate small wins because we found out that's a way to create momentum. Every time we'd have a small win, maybe we'd find a way. I coach baseball and football and everything else, but like in football, maybe we'd find a way to have a practice without any 5-yard penalties. That meant no mental errors whatsoever, no 5-yard penalties. And then all of a sudden I'd tell the team at the end of the day, hey, we just had an entire practice with no 5-yard penalties. You need to take that win, celebrate it, and put it in your back pocket. We're getting better. We're getting more disciplined. Can you create environments where you celebrate wins? Now, JR told you that I worked with the Texas Rangers for the past 5 years, and I worked both with their coaches development, but also I've worked a lot with their executive leadership teams and developed an executive leadership training system for them. And one of the things that I did with them for a couple of years there, we won the division championship when my good friend Jeff Bannister was the head coach, was the manager, and we won the division championship. And one time it worked out just right. We won the division championship, and my meeting that month was that following Monday after the weekend. So I asked the owner if it'd be okay if I called up the clubby and asked him, hey, we had this big executive conference room that I met in with the executive leadership team, about 12 of them. And I met with them every month and then did one-on-one meetings with them. And I asked the owner, Ray Davis, I said, hey, Ray, is it okay if I call up the clubby and asked him to tape off the executive conference room just like they tape off the clubhouse when they celebrate with champagne and everything? And he goes, oh, I love it, Rod. It's a great idea. Let's do that. Because we got to win as a family, right? So we taped off the whole conference room, and I actually had the clubby. He put goggles and the division winning championship T-shirts along with hats that you get when you win a championship. And we had you know, champagne, the whole deal. We popped the corks, we did all that kind of stuff, and we had cake, and we celebrated for our meeting right before our meeting for about 30 minutes that day. Took pictures, the whole deal. And again, why'd I do that? Because we want to celebrate our wins. We want to make sure that everybody understands this was a great honor. And remember, in our country, we don't celebrate wins enough. You know, every time somebody wins a Super Bowl or wins a national championship, those stupid reporters come up to them the day after and say, hey, that was great. How can you do it again? It's like, man, can we at least get a day to celebrate? So we've got a bad habit in our country of not celebrating wins and always moving too fast to the next thing. So I encourage you to do that. All right, let's go to number 5, our final one here, and then we'll get to Q&A. In times of uncertainty, elite ADs or mature ADs take care of themselves. Now, early on in one of our previous webinars, I told all of you, hey, do me a favor, for the next hour or so, be selfish. You know, find some nuggets for yourself. Work on you. Instead of thinking about everybody else, let's work on you right now. And you know what? At the end of the day, I put this as number 5, our last one, but it's actually number 1. Because remember the mantra from my good friend Kelly McGregor. You can't give away what you don't possess yourself. I'm going to say that again. You and I can't give away what we don't possess ourselves. I can't ask my people to have a good attitude and have great body language and have great energy if I don't. It's just the quickest way to ruin your credibility. You know, I live in Colorado, and the politicians are always trying to get people to do stuff and everything else. And our mayor actually got on right before Thanksgiving, got on TV, and they had this spot, and he said, "Hey, nobody travel for Thanksgiving. If you just be with immediate family, we really got to stop this virus. Our numbers are going up. Nobody travel. Make sure you stay at home and just have a great time with your family." Sure enough, that was Tuesday night. Sure enough, they catch him on an airplane Wednesday night going to Mississippi. So remember, we can't give away what we don't possess ourselves. We have to model the behavior we want to instill in others. But more importantly than that, how do we make sure we're in a good emotional state in these uncertain times? You know, and if I was coaching each one of you, I'd sit down with you and I'd say, all right, let's do an inventory of how you're taking care of yourself. Where are you at? You know, where are you at mentally? Where are you at physically? Where are you at emotionally? How are you and your family doing? Where are you at spiritually? Hey, let's rank these and let's see how we can work on them. Because again, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're gonna be, as my good friend Tim Elmore says, you're gonna be the starving baker. You're gonna be helping everybody else and not really taking care of yourself. Hey, one of the purposes of NACDA is to help you guys and gals be the best you can be, but also to feed you. You know, I partner with them because they want to help ADs, you know, and I want to help you. And you're in a tough spot. And leadership can be lonely, but I'll tell you what else, leadership can suck the life out of you. So it's important to take care of yourself. Now, I put here with a little asterisk, morning and midday selfishness can be a good thing. Now, what I mean by that is, I want each of you right now on a sheet of paper just to write down or think about what's something that you got to have in the morning that really makes you comfortable and really helps you start your day right. You know, for me, one of the things I like to do is I drink some emergency or whatever that stuff is, and then I got to have my cup of coffee. You know, I love having that cup of coffee, and I love just sitting down and you know, just looking at my notes, my emails and devotions, whatever it is, a little quiet time, right? But if I don't get that quiet time, I get a little sideways. I get a little weird. So a little bit more on edge. So it's real important. Whatever you have, write some stuff down. Think about some stuff right now. What do you need to have in the morning that's sacred to you? All right. Make sure every morning you get that. Now, don't be an idiot and be a jerk to people if they don't let you get it. It's your job to get up earlier when no one else is awake, if that's the only way you can get it. All right. You just got to take care of yourself. But I also put there midday. You know, nothing wrong with going out and getting a walk in. Nothing wrong with just taking a break, shutting your door and telling your assistant or whoever or whoever it is, don't answer your phone, put it on silent and whatever. Just take 20 to 30 minutes for yourself. Heck, if it's 15 to 10, that's good. But you got to take care of yourself. Remember, those midday moments for yourself can be really powerful too. What do you love doing in the middle of the day? Maybe it's FaceTiming your kids or your grandkids. Maybe it's FaceTiming your spouse. You know, maybe it's just a little mindfulness exercise for 5 minutes. Maybe it's closing your eyes. I don't know. But great leaders, mature leaders know what they need midday too. Now, I think I put one more thing on here, and then we're going to pop it over to JR for so we can do some Q&A. But this is also massive about taking care of yourself. And again, if I was coaching you, this is one of the things we'd talk about is you got to raise your self-awareness. What is absolutely kryptonite to you? What's going to derail you and keep you from being the best version of yourself? You know, one of the things that drives me crazy is I'm very impatient, and I'm not patient with people that move slowly and don't get things done. You know, I work with high-speed people, and I expect them to get things done when they say they're going to get things done. But that also is a curse to me, because there are some times that I need to slow down. I need to just let things play out. So make a quick list, if you would, and you could do this later. What is kryptonite to you, and what are the things that derail you? Because remember, you know, the unexamined life isn't worth living, as Socrates said. You got to know yourself and what trips you up so that you can overcome it and have a plan to overcome those obstacles. All right. So JR, I'll kick it back to you. But let's do some Q&A and see what we got here.
Great. Well, Rod, thank you very much. I got one question that kind of dovetails off of what you were just talking about. And it was that how do you balance investment in your department versus your self-investment? So you talked about, I think it's important to do the self stuff, but there is a balance that I think you got to find. What kind of things do you have suggestions for that?
Yeah, boy, you know, and I should have you answer it. You've been an AD for 400 years. I think for me, you know, this is the whole, you know, the old adage, the old story, put your oxygen mask on before you put your kids, you know, oxygen mask on the airplane, right? You got to take care of yourself first. Now, the problem is some people, remember, ego is the enemy, right? And some people get that ego and they start taking care of themselves more than they are their staff. So I just think it's again, perfect balance is a myth. It's a myth. Anybody who's elite, anybody who's really good is so passionate about what they do that they're probably overboard with it. So again, the key is fighting for balance. Are you fighting to develop your staff? Are you fighting to make sure you got your own time to feed yourself? If you're not fighting in one of those two areas, that should be a red flag that you're probably out of whack. How much is too much? If you're always developing your staff and never yourself, that's too much. If you're always developing yourself and not your staff, it's too much. I will tell you this much though, JR. I would say, 90% of the athletic directors that I've seen across the country do not spend enough time developing their staff or their coaches.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock. It's just that they prioritize putting out fires more than they do developing their staff. And the reality is, if you develop your staff better, you'll have less fires.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good point. This one's an interesting one, and I think I know the answer, but I'll find out if I do or not. But what leader, current or historical, do you most admire and why?
Oh, man, that's a really good question. You know, I'm a faith guy. So, you know, I always mention Christ and just his ability to lead people, and his ability based upon history to really coach people's hearts rather than always just putting out fires or fixing things. He always empowered people and created ownership in people, which is what I think a great leader does. I tell you the other one that's really good to me, though, is my wife. You know, my wife, Marla, we've moved 15 times, and she's done the whole coach's gig and leadership gig. But I think one of the things that I'm really working on right now, and there's another guy that I like a lot named Bob Goff. He's written a bunch of books, but Bob talks a lot about just loving people. And you know what? In the positions that all these athletic directors, all you guys and gals are in, sometimes it's hard to love people, man. And people are messy. And you know, my wife has the ability to really love people, and that includes our kids. And you know, I just, you know, I need to be better at being an unconditional mentor to people. I'm human, and you know, we always say we got a limp, JR, right? We all got issues.
Yep.
Because you're not really an expert on anything. We're all just trying to figure it out. But I think my wife's a great example. And then I'm going to give you one more, and that is Jerry Moore, who used to be the head coach at Appalachian State. And Jerry was someone that really valued people over programs. And you know, in the long run, the people who have done that have won multiple championships, have really been successful on the field, on the court, in collegiate athletics. You know, the people that care about people first and value them first over systems and programs, they end up being, in the long run, more successful. But Jerry was one of those people. So I think that would be my short list.
You did pretty good. I was pretty close. So, hey, what are some habits to develop to keep focused on our quotation mark whys?
Say that again, would you?
Sure. What are some habits that we can develop to keep focused on our whys?
Okay, so you know, being committed to a greater cause, which is your why, right? Your why is everything, and everything. It's, you know, and the why thing is almost becoming cliche now, but it's so important, right? Just like we teach coaches and leaders, hey, we're in that world again where you have to tell them why before you do it, before you ask them to do it. They need to understand how it transfers to whatever they're doing, whether it's drill work, how does it transfer to the game, or whether it's something in the office you're asking a coach to do, how does that transfer to the big picture budget down the road? How does it help us? You know, how does it help all of us? So there's one tool that I think is one of the greatest tools that a good friend of mine, Bernie Holliday, gave me. And I know he got it from counselors, but it's called the 4 Why game. And one of the things that I love teaching people, and it's a great way to keep your why in front of it, but I have this little game that I play that people may not even know I'm playing it, but I'll ask people periodically, maybe quarterly, I'll walk up to people and say, hey, you know what? You're doing a great job here. I love that you're on the staff. I got a quick question for you. Hey, why are you still here? You know, why are you here? And they'll look at me kind of that dog, you know, deal. And they'll go, well, I just, you know, I want to be successful. I want to help us be successful. I want to help athletic directors and coaches and da-da-da. I go, yeah, but why are you really here? What's getting you out of bed in the morning? And then they'll tell me something like, well, you know, I really love the interaction with the people, and I love seeing people's light bulbs come on when we help them and give them tools. And then I play the 4 Why game, not the 1 Why game, but 4. Then I'll ask them, oh, why do you like helping people so much? Why do you like seeing light bulbs come on? And they'll go, oh, I just love it when people start to transform. And I feel like I've helped them. And in turn, it feels like they can impact many, many people because they lead so many people. And I go, oh, why is it so important for you to help leaders of leaders and to impact generations of people? And now that's my third why. I'll keep digging. Counselors and psychologists and psychiatrists actually call that technique mining. And what you're really trying to do is get to the core issue, but it's also a great tool to remind people of why they're here and to remind your staff of why we're here and to get to the true, authentic, wholesome core of why we do what we do. Hey, I do this with players all the time. Hey, why do you like football? Why are you, I just did it last night as I was working with a collegiate basketball team because I run a character development, a leadership development academy for this team. And I said, hey, why'd you guys go, before we talk about this team, why are you in college? And remember, high clarity equals high execution and high performance. And so I made each guy in that room state, and we put it up on the board with his initials, why they went to college. Because you know what? I remember when I was a student athlete, I forgot why I went to college other than I wanted to play ball, but man, we got some great answers like I want to be financially stable and help my family down the road. I want to position myself to be successful after basketball. I mean, you talk about good stuff, but if you never ask, you never hear it and they never think of it. So that's just a thought.
Good one. Thanks, Rod. We've got a couple of questions and they're sort of along the same theme here a little bit. I'll read one of them, but it's about the fact that we're so cut off and doing all this Zoom stuff now that makes it harder for that one-on-one thing. The question was for the time being, in-person department meetings, office stop-ins are a thing of the past. Any ideas to continue to foster and build relationships and enhance the 5 traits in a Zoom era?
Yeah, Yeah, what? I'm sick and tired of Zoom too. I had last night. I told you about that leadership academy I was running for those players, that team, and they were actually in the auditorium because they could be together, and then they had me on the big screen, and they walked in. A couple of the guys go, "Oh man, I thought Coach O, I thought you were going to be here," but that college won't let anybody from the outside on the campus. So there is no substitute for face-to-face. There just really isn't. However, we've got to find ways to reach people multiple ways. Now, if I always come to your office all the time and I have the same conversations for the same amount of time with the same tone and I use the same tactics, you're going to get tired of me, even if it's face-to-face. But if I can vary my tactics, which is a great leadership tool, right now, Zoom. I'll tell you what, I do a lot of executive coaching and also one-on-one coaching. And JR, one of the things I'm doing, and I'm going to do it again today, this afternoon. I've got a commander, a special forces commander I'm working with, and we're not Zooming it. We're doing an old school phone call. We're just going to talk on the phone. And then sometimes we'll do a Zoom, another time we'll FaceTime. So I'm going to vary my tactics because, by the way, I get tired of having to get dressed up and try and look good for a Zoom call. It's nice to know I have a phone call that I don't have to get dressed up for, or I don't have to worry about what's in the background or all that kind of crap. So I would encourage you to vary your tactics. That's very, very important. I love doing this too. Is there a way that you can get face-to-face without violating any of the contact rules? And what I mean is, you're watching these football games, and what are they doing with the announcers? They're putting glass between them. Is there a way you can maybe go see someone and talk? And I hate to use the prison example, right? You got the glass pane right between the two of you, but hey, be creative. Think of ways that maybe you could see your people almost face-to-face if you can, but you got to vary your tactics. That's the most important thing in the world. And then I'm going to give you one more thing. And JR, you and I are old school. I'm telling you, the handwritten note still plays big.
Yep.
It still plays big. So I'd encourage you, go get some Christmas cards, man. Go write them a note and just thank them for how much you appreciate them and what they've done. And be specific. Cite examples. Don't be generic. Really be authentic and cite examples of how you appreciate them. And go ahead and take out a pen to paper and go old school on them. Yep. And throw a little gift card in there. Doesn't hurt either. Little $10 Starbucks card or something.
Yep, that always helps for sure. Hey, what's your favorite part of the special operations culture?
I tell you what, and you guys and gals are going to laugh. The lack of red tape. I think one of the benefits of special ops is they're principle driven, mission driven. And what that means is, when I was a coach at the small college level and also the associate AD, it seemed like we were always in a battle, right? You know, it's like, well, I need this. Well, we don't have that much money in the budget. And then, you know, then when I became an associate AD, I was on the other side. I'm like, well, I'd love to give you this, but it means you're not going to have that. And so I think once you get to that level, also the pro level, you don't deal with the minutia. You know, you don't deal with you know, somebody in the admissions department isn't happy because you took the car too far on a trip, you know, and you had to because the kid was in a different location or something. And you know, and I love the high speed of it. I love the lack of obstacles that you have to go around. Now, don't get me wrong, when you do a Department of Defense contract, it's laborious. but once you're in there, it's pretty good. I'll tell you the other thing that I love, everyone has been trained in the same mindset, which is we're going to find a way to get this done. It doesn't matter. There's nobody that has a victim mentality. Nobody. That is just not allowed. So consequently, you're dealing with humans, male or female, that they're there to get a job done, and they're not there to whine or to act like a victim. It's just not allowed in that culture. So there's not a lot of victimization of situations, if that makes sense. You know, not a lot of self-pity. Now, you get them in a room alone, start coaching them, you get a little bit of that, but for the most part, everybody's trained to be overcomers. And so I love that mindset too. Good question.
Yeah, very good one. This one's a good one too, and I think it's pertinent in our age here, but how do you exhibit patience and understanding and communicate that to your staff when decisions from leadership teams take a long time or are not aligned with what they want to do?
Well, you're asking the wrong guy. No, I'm going to be very transparent with everybody on the call, and I'm going to tell a very short story. I told you my son plays lacrosse down at Limestone and University, and we were going to watch some games because the previous college he played at too was in the South, and so my wife and I we travel for about a week. We'll go watch games because otherwise we have to watch them online. And so we get up that morning to go to the game, and it's early. It's like 10 o'clock still. The game's not till like 1 or 2, so we're good. So we're going to get some Starbucks, and we're in the South, which is a great thing. I love the South. We pull into Starbucks. And there's a little bit of a line. There's about probably 6, 7 cars. And I'm okay with that. We got time. We're on vacation, basically. You know, it's a feel-good time. And next thing you know, this line is not moved in 5 minutes. And I'm driving, and I'm starting to get a little bit irritated. And next thing you know, it's 7 minutes, and the line's not moving. And guess what Rod starts doing? I start looking for parking places to put the car in so I can go in and get it. Well, now we move maybe an inch, it's still not moving. And I'm thinking to myself, how freaking hard is it to get a cup of coffee? You know what I mean? It's not that tough. Can we just speed this process up a little bit? Because again, it's all about me at the end of the day. And so I can't take it anymore. I put my hand on the top of the wheel, getting ready to turn out of the lane, and my wife goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, "I'm going to go park over there because I can go in and get my coffee faster than this guy can get it to us." And then she looks at me and she goes, "I thought you were working on patience."
Yeah.
I'm like, So immediately, here's what I have to do, JR, to answer your question. Here's what I have to do. I have to, and by the way, I'm sick. Most people may not be as bad as me, but I have to immediately turn it into a competition.
Sure.
And I have to tell myself, the Starbucks guy is not going to beat me today. I am going to find a way to stay in this lane. I'm going to breathe. By the way, breathing's crucial. They teach you that in all the special ops stuff and everywhere else. You got to breathe to slow your heart rate down and just relax. And I start thinking about other things. I start talking to my wife. I start thinking about how great it is. Hey, RNME, right now means everything. Can I just enjoy the moment? Blah, blah, blah. I'm still mad though, by the way. Finally, we get up there and I win, right? I tell myself I won. Now I've earned the right to rip this kid, right? So he hands me the coffees, and just as I'm about ready to give my credit card, he looks at me and goes, "Hey, bro, no charge. Totally our fault. It took way too long, and you have a blessed day." And I take my credit card back, and I'm like, "Dang it, man! I don't even get the satisfaction of ripping that guy, right?" And my wife then looks at me and goes, "Well, God got you on that one, didn't he?" I'm like, So I think you have to find ways to proactively know what your kryptonite and what your derailers are. What are the things that trip you up? You know, what are the things that cause you to be impatient? Know ahead of time so that you can build a plan to overcome that. That's what we do in coaching all the time. You know, if incompetence drives you crazy, then you've got to find a way to reframe when people say something stupid. You just have to find a way to pause and reframe it and get things from their perspective or their maturity level, and just coach them as opposed to get mad at them. The other thing about this process is know your kryptonite and your derailers, but also there's a little game that we teach called last letter, first word. If you're not a great listener and you're very impatient and you want to just get to the next conversation, last letter, first word means I have to let you finish and hear your last word so I can figure out what the last letter of the last word you said is, and then I have to start my sentence with that letter in my first word. So if someone says, hey, Rod, how are you doing? Doing ends in G. I have to say, good. How are you? And then I play that game just to recalibrate me. I only do it for a few seconds maybe, to recalibrate me back into listening and letting people go all the way to the end.
Yep.
Some just another tool.
Good tool. Good tool. Rod, there's a question a little bit about your Coffee with newsletter. And what do you feel is the right balance for that? Is it every week, every month? And then what particular information? I mean, I'm aware because I've been on it for a long time, but what particular information do you?
I think it's different for a guy like me that's just trying to be, a helpful thought guy. That's what I'm trying to do. But if I was an athletic director, I'm doing that weekly. Absolutely. And I'm going to be brief though. I think the biggest mistakes we make are we have meetings that are too long and we talk way too much and we waste way too much time. So the balance is, can we be concise and caring at the same time and relevant, right? That's kind of the trifecta: caring, relevant, and concise. Can you do all that? If I did one of those Coffee with Coach O newsletters every Monday, I'd figure out a format that's very simple. And I mentioned one when I was teaching just a little bit ago. Hey, where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. You could term that some other different way, but I would do it weekly and I would be concise. The other thing I would do is put something that benefits them in every letter, meaning a coaching point for the week, or and then find a quote of the week, something to inspire and encourage them. Please do not do a coffee letter every week and then rip your people or say something stupid like, yeah, stupidity is the problem of every department, and that's your quote for the week. Don't be that guy or that gal. That's just immature and it's not good leadership. But I would do it weekly. And then, by the way, it's okay to farm it out every once in a while. Like maybe you grab my newsletter and then at the top of the email you say, hey, just thought you could use a break from me this week. Here's Coach O's letter. Thought you would like it. I do stuff. I would do stuff like that too to vary your tactics.
Cool. Yep. This one's about hiring and such. What are key characteristics leaders should be looking for when they're building or hiring their teams?
Yeah, what's funny? I just had a coach, a D2 coach, long time, very successful coach, email me and ask me the exact same question. And even after 30, 40 years, he's still wanting to get better, which I thought was great. I have a simple criteria right out of the box that I start with. They got to be Fat C. It's something that I was taught to me. It's actually in my first book, that Legacy Builder book. Fat C is the leadership criteria I use for myself and also for my people. Some people don't like to use the word fat, so they'll say fact, F-A-C-T, whatever. I just remember I got to be fat. And then I put a C on the end of it. Faithful is the F. If the people aren't faithful that I'm hiring, I'm not going to hire them. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about spirituality or religion. What I'm talking about, are they going to be faithful to the organization and trust me and trust the school? Or do they have a history of talking bad about the places they work? I have zero tolerance for people that are going to be negative about the place you work. Listen, there are no locks on the door. Just leave if you don't like it. I don't need people to bitch about the place or complain. We need people that are going to bring solutions to the table, not just point out problems. So I need people that are going to be faithful to me and to the organization and the college or the university. The second thing is I need people who are available, and that's twofold. One, they're available to learn, but they're available to help other people. Their primary focus is helping other people get what they want. They have a mantra that they believe, hey, if I help other people get what they want, I'll get what I need. Are they that type of person that'll be available for other people? Will they make time for other people? The T stands for teachable. Do they have a teachable and coachable spirit? If they do not, I have zero tolerance for them in time. I'm getting old, and I got no time for arrogant or egotistical people. One of my mantras is to have a white belt mentality, which is the beginner's belt in martial arts. And that means that you have a voracious learner spirit about you. I want to have a white belt mentality. I don't have all the answers. I have no idea. I'm honored that you guys and gals are asking me questions, but really, I bet if I asked every question to JR and to you guys and gals, you'd answer them just as maybe better. But I think it's important. Do they have a teachable and coachable spirit, or do they think they're a know-it-all? And then the last one is they got to have moral courage. If they aren't willing to stand up and say the right thing and do the right thing, I can't hire them. That's an integrity issue now. I need people with moral courage, because if they have moral courage, not only will they have integrity, but they'll hold themselves accountable, and they'll be able to hold other people accountable. And then the other one for me that's not in the acrostic, but I need to have relationship-driven people. I need people who love people. You know, one of my mentors, Frosty Westring, used to tell me, I can teach my coaches how to coach, but I can't teach them to care. I need people who care about people and who care about kids at the end of the day. So that's kind of that's a quick snapshot of my criteria. But one more thing on that, JR. If any one of those four things is missing, their leadership will shipwreck. If they're faithful, available, teachable, but don't have moral courage, they'll fail. If they have moral courage, are teachable and coachable, but aren't faithful to the organization, they'll fail. So you got to have all four. It's not just one of the four.
Yep, good one. Hey, we're getting close. This is probably a summary, though, of a couple of questions. And it seems to me that it seems to be a theme that a lot of people are looking for right now, Rod, and that is hitting the sweet spot. So the balance piece we talked about, we had a question about that before, but just for you, talk a little bit about things you can do to make sure you're finding the right equation between talking to your people and not talking to them, letting them do their own thing versus giving guidance. There seems to be a real need right now to hear about how can I find a sweet spot.
Yeah, I think, remember now, I'm going to remind me if I forget here, because I'm getting older like all of us. But I want to talk about that, and then also personal balance also. But first of all, with your staff, you know, we talk about the secret sauce today is to be relationship driven and hold people accountable without them resenting you. That is the secret sauce, both for athletic directors, leaders, and coaches. Relationship driven, people feel cared about, and you can hold them accountable without them resenting you. That's the secret sauce. Now, how close is too close to our people? And there's a simple way to measure that. If you find yourself not being able to hold someone accountable because you're worried about damaging the relationship, you're too close. There's only one person in my life that I don't hold accountable at a high level, and that's my wife. There's no such thing as too close with the two of us, right? We hold each other accountable, but you guys know what I mean, and gals. It's other than that in my life, I got to hold people accountable. And if I find myself worrying about damaging the relationship or not, or that, you know, JR has a boat, or he's promised to take me trout fishing, and if I get him mad by holding him accountable, he might not take me trout fishing next week. That's too close. That's too close. And you've lost your understanding of leader and follower. You've lost it. Yeah, we're working with each other, but I got to lead too. Remember, people are looking for a North Star. That's important. Now, one thing on personal balance, and then we can finish up. I try, and one of my goals right now is to leave 18 to 20% of my cup empty for what might come along. And so it's that old adage, right? If your cup's full and if you keep adding stuff, it's just going to keep overflowing, and now you're out of control. But if you can keep your cup about 20 to 25% empty, and that means you've got to be disciplined about letting certain things have too much power in your life. I mean, this could be TV, it could be social media, it could be meetings. You know, I remember there's some ADs I've worked with in the past and executives that they're having too many meetings, and they're doing it to themselves, or they're not sending people to other meetings that they think they have to be in. I mean, it's amazing how we will make our level of importance so important that we have to be at everything,
Yeah.
especially a small college. Well, you understand, if I'm not in that room, I get it, but you gotta create some balance, or you're not going to be here for that long. So I think that's crucial too, just to keep some balance. And hey, JR, one thing it's up on the screen. I think people can see it. We would love to help you. You know, I've got a staff that specializes in helping athletic directors with all the things that were just being asked, and not only creating culture, but actually enhancing the culture you already have. And by the way, we're looking for 1%ers. I'm not looking for the people that want one workshop that's a shot in the arm, but I'm also not looking for the people, we call these 7%ers, where 90% of the people just want a one shot in the arm. 7% or 8% want a hey, I really want to do more stuff and follow up and have an ongoing, and then they never do it. They mean well, but they don't do it. And then there's the 1%ers that actually want to have ongoing development with their people. And those are the ones we're looking for, that really want to, much like yourself, JR, and we've worked together for a long time, that people see the long game. They really understand. And by the way, there's something else that's cool about bringing in someone from the outside. We don't have a dog in the hunt. People aren't threatened by us. And that's a huge deal. And I can get away with saying stuff that you can't. And I don't mean that politically. I'm saying just, I'm not the AD, but we can come alongside and help you. So there's all the contact info if you need anything. JR, I'm honored, man, to be a part of this and to be a part of NACDA, and we're so blessed here, man. So blessed.
Rod, thank you very much. We really do appreciate the time. I'm sure there's been a lot of good things taken away from today. So, or even if there's just one, right? So
absolutely.
All righty. Well, thank you again. Thanks all of you for participating, and enjoy your holidays.